Welcome to another episode of the Edmonds Moms Room podcast. We are so lucky today to be talking to Michelle Noble. And is your business still called the Calmer Mom Solution?
It's a Calmer Mom Project.
Calmer Mom Project.
Yeah. No, you're close. My website is actually, nice segue. No, my website is actually calmermom.solutions. So
calmermom.solutions. Okay, perfect. We'll put that in the show notes so people can find you there. But I mean, your business name kind of says it all. Calmer Mom, right?
That's the target. And what I always like to bring up with that is that as moms, we've really been a lot of us have taken on or been sold this idea that the ideal mom would never lose her temper, would always be like this tranquil Zen being that would never yell at her children, and I actually that is not my point of view. I think that point of view mostly leads to women judging themselves for being human beings who have imperfections and flaws and bad days and PMS and not enough tacos or whatever it is that we require in order to be happy and our most vital and vibrant selves. So I've over the years actually sort of grappled with that name a little bit, because it's kind of like, well, does that feed that stereotype, or is it actually an invitation to like go to that, be drawn to that, and then go like, oh, wait a minute, the me that my kids really require is the me that I truly am, with all my bad days and all my good days and all my flaws and imperfection, the things that I have judged as being imperfections that may actually be exactly what they require. And the invitation to them, to my kids, to actually see, yeah, this is what it looks like when mom's a hot mess and she's still like this valuable, creative person who loves me, instead of being like, this is what my mom looks like when she has her like Stepford wife face on. And I have to pretend to be that too in order to be acceptable. So that's kind of where I come from with that, is, and getting to the place of self-trust where, so that when we have our bad days, instead of judging ourselves and being hung over by it for, an hour a day, a week, a year, and kind of parenting from the place of trying to correct away from that feeling, instead we can be like, oh yeah, well, that happened. So what's right about that? Or what do I need to choose now? Awesome. What resource could I have provided myself that maybe I'm ignoring? Is there some kind of caring for me or my body that's required? Or is it that there's something that's really not working for me that I'm putting up with, and I need to set a boundary or really look at that and what it would take to create something different? So that last little bit there is like particularly rich in these like sort of quarantine, being home in intimate space with our partners and our children so much of the time. It's like, yeah, okay, what boundaries required so that I can have me even in these tight quarters. So.
Oh, totally. So much came up for me when you were just saying that, but I'm going to back up before we dive into it any further. So what made you start the Calmer Mom Project, and what do you do?
Okay. So I started the Calmer Mom Project because my journey with that is that my daughter now, my older daughter, is almost 11. She'll be 11 at the end of the summer. And I'd already been a massage therapist for years. I was kind of a late starter mom. I got pregnant with her when I was 36 or 37. And I had a lot of expectations about what motherhood was going to be like, what birth was going to be like. I'd taken baby massage classes. I was such a caring, good listener. I thought I had all these like images of like, oh, I will lay my hands upon her and she will be soothed and be calm and da 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 da. And I'm so mature and well resourced, right? And all of that pretty much was like just blew up in a big shit bomb. Expectations, right? Because to start with, even though I had an easy pregnancy, the birth went completely different than we had planned. We had planned a home birth. We ended up with a hospital birth. It took a really long time. I had a ton of resistance. I basically had the point of view from all my, listening to all these like kind of looking at natural medicine stuff and watching movies like The Business of Being Born and these different things, I basically went in with this expectation that everybody just wanted to give me a C-section. So that's like a really relaxed, open space from which to receive the possibilities of a beautiful, like empowering birth. Not. Rosemary actually had a bit of an injury in the birth process as well, which I didn't fully grasp the implications of that at the time, and really didn't have anybody really help me with that. So that then as we, when she was just so unsoothable for a lot of reasons that I didn't get at the time, I took that on as being, like basically if I can't make her happy, I must be failing, and there's got to be some like magical key that would finally solve this. So I'm, I was just laughing because like I've just like been cleaning this bookcase out, and the number of baby books I had, where particularly the sleep sections of those books, it looked like my books from college. There's notes in the margin, things are highlighted. There's like the little bookmarks with little tabs and notes, and like this, I'm going to show my husband this part. It's like, it was just like this testament to the frantic use of my brain to try to solve this problem, and the hope that some magical person would be able to finally give me this key. So that was fun. And I ended up taking Zoloft because I was so like in such a spiral, and had couldn't find a way out. My husband also had PTSD from this intensity. And that was kind of like our plunge into parenting. And unsurprisingly, there's 4.5 years between our two kids, because it took a minute before we got to the place where we were willing to go again. But I had like that kind of knowing that it's like, yeah, I'm that's part of my journey, is to have a second kid. And so just literally the day before my second child was born, I went to an intro class. I'd been hearing about this thing called Access Consciousness. Some women I trusted were involved in it and said it had made more of a change for them than anything else they'd ever tried. I finally on my due date, I went to this class and immediately was aware of the possibilities of it. The way they talk about making choices was so light and easy versus how I tended to make choices, which was to like agonize and gather all the possible information, and try very hard not to be wrong, and get it right. And so as I started to then play with those tools, our second birth went really differently, and I started to play with the tools more and more during the months when Gussie was an infant. And I started to what if I had had these tools the first time around? Like, what could have been different, starting with the birth process, probably starting with the pregnancy, but though that wasn't an area that I really struggled with, but I still see where there's places I could have been in question and looked for, played with energy differently and had more ease and been more, not prepared, but like more open for the birth process, more receptive during the birth process. Definitely there would have been different things I would have been doing throughout that birth process where I would not have had the same level of resistance and fear. So I could have received more contribution from what, even if we had still ended up in the hospital, like what that experience would have been really different. And even the kinds of ways of being with my daughter in those first few months would have been set up for more ease. And this is not, I kind of hesitate to say it because there's so much fear instilled in moms. We're implanted with so much fear that if we do something wrong, it's going to have all these downstream implications for our children. And I think there are still things that I'm unraveling in my relationship with Rosemary that had to do with how she had all that stuff in those first few months that are like kind of set us up for this sort of tension between us. We have a really amazing, creative, generative relationship, and also we have a lot of tension between us. And I think some of that was set up in that early time that could have been different. So as I was aware of that, I was like, okay, what would it take to get these tools, to get this different point of view available to women, ideally, even as maybe they're looking at whether they'd like to get pregnant or during pregnancy or soon at the time, soon after, like the soonest possible, what would it take to get these tools to women? And so that's how the Calmer Mom Project was born, is my desire to support women and have, provide a possibility that's really easier than trying to get it right. Because trying to get it right isn't easy. it's miserable.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's it. I love it. This is so great. And I'm going to give you a little plug here because you've obviously treated me before, and it is with everything you're saying. And even though you acknowledge, like, yeah, we're not trying to be perfect. No one's trying to be perfect. Everyone has their crappy days, but you have, I think when I come out of like a session with you, what I have is this like lightness. It's like a floating through life because I think you are so calm. Like it like has unloaded a lot of it. And maybe I'm speaking out of maybe that's not your client's experience, but that's definitely what mine have been. And I think when you can go into anything, whether that's pregnancy, conception, postpartum, with that sense of calm, it just makes you so much less reactive. It makes you so much less it makes you able to take action from a point of calm instead of being like this hyper emotional person. So you show up better. Maybe I'm taking it out of context, but anyways, that's my plug.
Thank you for saying, yeah, thank you, Allison. And that does resonate. I mean, one of the things that I notice is that I don't really actually see myself as calm. Like that's not my self view of myself, but the work itself has a calm to it. And it's not, so you had asked me to say what I do, and maybe I should say a little bit more about what a session, what different kinds of sessions can be like.
Yeah. Well, let's define, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I want to define access first, access consciousness. Maybe you can define that first and then go into what the session would look like.
Okay. So access consciousness is literally like a tools to help people know that they know and get to that place of trusting and being, seeing themselves as the powerful creators of their own lives, and being willing to so that's basically like the tagline of Access, is helping people know that they know. And it's really interesting because it's not actually know what you know, because that's a different energy. That's like knowing what you know, like feeling like you like being an expert on everything all the time. Or something like that, or that you know, knowing that you should know, or something like that. It's like knowing that you know, like, okay, I have a confidence, I have somewhere within me is the knowing, the energy, the perceiving, the information, whatever's required, so that if I choose from what I know, I can actually create the life that includes my family, includes my children, includes whatever that I'm asking for. And it's not about, funny is calmermom.solutions, but like, I don't actually want to be anybody's guru or provider of advice. Like it's not about me giving you advice. It's what you described. Like from a session, you get to that stillness. We could call it like that calm, or that stillness, that place where you can more easily access what you do know, less of that gerbil mind of like, like, I don't know how that comes across on a podcast. Visualize gerbil on wheel, right? Squeak, squeak, squeak. Of trying to find a right answer and searching outside of ourselves for that answer, searching outside of ourselves for happiness, searching outside of ourselves for the finally whatever's we could finally discover to provide something, instead of being like, okay, it's in here, it's in me, it's like, it's there, the seeds are there. I've been trying, like one of the analogies is like, all of my life I've been using fingernail clippers through the jungle to try to find what I know. And like, what if it could just be totally, like, it doesn't have to be that hard. And so that is what I'd like to provide, like support and facilitate people towards, particularly moms, because that's like where my passion is. Of it actually doesn't have to be that hard.
I don't know, minute of what you just said.
Okay. In sessions where people actually come to my office, and we're going to do some of the hands-on work, there's this amazing process called Access Consciousness, the bars. And the bars are points on the head where if they're gently held, they actually clear the charge in the body around different issues where there's a lot of stuff. Like there's bars for money, there's bars for control, there's bars for body and sexuality, joy and sorrow. Those are all different points that when they're held gently, it clears and dissipates that energy in the body. And so if you've ever had something that you've tried to change a lot, and every time you try it, you like maybe get a little progress on it, and then you end up just feeling like you always go back to that same place, or things where you always are sort of like, there's a tendency to always reference off them. Like anytime you try to make a change, you're carrying with you the luggage of all the times that you've tried to change that before and have not been successful. So you've already sort of decided you're not going to succeed. It's not changeable before you ever go for the millionth time to try to change it. So that's the stuff that gets cleared in a bar session. And
quickly, I have a question. Yeah. Can you feel those points of energy?
Yes.
When you're touching a head?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's actually like it's. I can think of I love running bars. One of the perks is that it actually helps clear my energy around those things as well. So it's like, what a deal.
Double whammy.
But absolutely. And one of the things that's so fascinating is that sometimes sessions are very quiet, and that's fine. Like maybe there's a little bit of talking at the beginning where I'm kind of asking some questions about like, what would you like to have? What would you like to get out of this session? Getting a little information about what's going on for the person. And part of what that provides then is that it actually brings up the energy of what you would like to change. So whatever your ask is, whatever your target is, I don't actually, so it brings up that energy. So then when I'm holding the points, the energy is up, the charge is up. And so it more easily can be cleared. And what will happen in a session is someone will be, like I said, like sometimes in a quiet session, I'll get a hit of information and I might ask a question and it'll be kind of like right where it needs to go. Or sometimes there'll be a lot more talking in a session and it'll be really fun to feel like someone starts talking about something in the particular set of bars I'm running will go like, wah, it's like my hands are like magnetically, even though I'm still touching their head lightly, it like feels like I'm just like, suction to their head until that charge starts to dissipate. And then I can kind of be like, okay, hey body, is it time to move on now? Or is there like another layer to like stay here and kind of go another layer with that? And sessions are typically an hour and a half. And so you lay on a massage table, fully clothed, all cozy with a blankie and a pillow. And all but about like almost always all the points are run. There's like a couple places where I might like touch your feet, or if some particular thing is asking, there's some other processes that might come up and I could ask, to see it. So all right, if I put my hand on your knees or your, whatever like that. But typically it's mostly done on the head. So those would be an in-person session. And we would also, like I said, maybe it's really quiet or maybe there's some talking and that helps to clear the energy. But I also do Zoom sessions, like online sessions.
Are you open for in-clinic now?
Yeah. Well, I just started to see, like today is actually the first time that I'm going to have a client come and we're going to actually I've got a covered porch. We're going to do a covered porch and,
cool.
Mask up and stuff like that. So I'm starting to get back into how I can actually do the hands-on work. But all through this thing, I've been doing the Zoom sessions with people.
Cool. Tell us about those.
Yeah. And so those are typically about 20 minutes, half hour, somewhere in that range. And what you can, ask questions about bring up the energy of what you'd like to change. And then in addition to all the hands-on stuff in Access Consciousness, there's just this huge like bag of gold of ways to ask questions to get at the energy of what the story is that's making something hard, like that's holding it in place. So, this like I said, like when we were talking about when you would like to change something and you kind of already have decided it's unchangeable, that is actually a great question. It's like, so what have you decided is unchangeable about this? that if you were willing to have it be changeable, would actually create more ease or create a different possibility. What if everywhere you've decided this is a problem, there's a possibility available? What if everything that you've decided is your greatest flaw, your greatest wrongness, your greatest weakness is actually your greatest gift, your greatest superpower? And just by asking these questions, it starts to sort of shift an energy around it. And it's not really about getting answers. So it's not about like, if I ask what possibility is available, you might have some possibilities pop to mind. You're like, oh, wait, I could do this. I could ask that. I could change this. Or it might just be this kind of like space. And it's an opportunity to sit in that space. And I can't tell you how it works, but I can tell you that it does work, because I am an entirely different version of myself with how I handle every area of my life now than I was. It's been almost like 6.5 years since I went to that first Access Consciousness class. And every single thing that comes up is like, okay, so you guys, well, you can't, this is going to be just on out. So behind me is this big bookcase, and I've got a couple of boxes at the top. And that used to be a pile of queen size sheets was up there. This has only been like 2 weeks ago. And I'm like, I'm doing all these Zooms and I want it to be more tidy, and it's bugging me anyway, because I'm going to get this cleaned up. And I just got into this like, and I had these other boxes, and I tried to put the sheets in, and it totally didn't work, and they didn't fit on the and I was just like getting so pissed off about it. And I'm like literally like raging about it. And then I went to this place of, okay, so I'm going to ask questions, and kind of like this thing of like expanding backward, like out. So I'm not just in my body with my tight brain. And literally within an hour of that, I was laughing at myself. Like, how ridiculous that I'd made it so hard. Like, and I was going like, my husband is trapping me because he doesn't want me to buy more stuff on Amazon to organize my life, which is a total lie. I mean, he does tend to be like, what have we got that would work so that we don't have to buy more stuff? But it's not like he's like, you spent another $20 on Amazon, you whore, or this is not our reality, right? So it's like so ridiculous that I'm making him wrong for my sheet pile. See what I did there? And, I'm making me wrong, and I'm pissed at the kids. I don't know why, what they have to do with it. Maybe because somebody wandered past. And like literally an hour later, I'm like, this is so silly. This is so funny. But it's such an example of all the places in life of going to like making something significant, not because of anything to do with the sheets, but all these stories I started to attach to it that had to do with all these other frustrations. Well, that's a great place to get some facilitation. I facilitated myself out of it. But if you have those things come up where it's like, so were you walking around vaguely pissed off all the time and then managing to like tape other people to it? That's a great place to be with someone who will not judge you for that. I don't have a bad point of view that that's wrong or that that's something judgeable that you need to fix or a sign of your weakness. And we don't have to go through the story of your life and how this goes back to, your father's Argyle socks. I don't care about all that stuff. You can talk about it if that creates something for you, if that's valuable for you, you can talk about that and I will hold space for it. But what I'd rather do is ask questions about, in this 10 seconds, like, okay, cool. You came up with a story to do with those Argyle socks. And since that time, you have been shutting down your love of Argyle. And so now the real you has this passion for Argyle that you've been shutting down for, 25 years. Cool. So what else is possible? What else is possible? What else is possible?
Yeah, that's awesome. Who's ever, like, when people listen to this, I think they're going to have to rewind it and like re-listen and pause and re-listen and pause and rewind to those questions that you asked earlier on here. But like, I think it's just so interesting. And what I gathered from this, when you're speaking about this, it's really like a clarity. It's a clarity for more, right?
Yeah.
There's something to that. Like, and when you have the clarity, you have the ability to, I guess you would say, see what's possible. And maybe it's like a foresight for the future, or a foresight for your next interaction. I think.
Yeah.
To me, that's the word that's popping as far as like what you're providing, like to some degree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and there's something about so what we tend to do is reference the past all the time.
Mm-hmm.
If you use the past as your reference points all the time, all you can do is recreate the past.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you said about when you get to that place of some clarity, some space, and go, okay, I would like something different, and I don't actually know how to make it different, but I know what I do know is there's something different possible, even though everyone around me doesn't seem to see it. That's one of the things that we're very often undermined around, and maybe from a space of people doing control, and maybe from them just not knowing. But like, okay, I'm dissatisfied with, if you're dissatisfied with your life and you want something greater, and then but everyone around you seems to be like, yeah, this is just how it is, now, whatever. I'm not saying it very clearly, but it's just like, so that referencing back, well, what if, creating, that's part of, that would be a huge gift I would like to come from people having sessions, women having sessions, is to, instead of referencing the past, have that awareness of that possibility in the future, that clarity, that knowing that it can change, it can change, it can change. It can, and you are not wrong and ridiculous for thinking that there is something else greater possible. And the fact that you don't know how to get there yet, for one thing, has a lot to do with the fact that all you've been taught is to look at how it looked to the past for resources. But the part that you don't know how doesn't actually matter at all. And it's not because you come to me then and I tell you how. It's because you get to a place where you can be like, I want that. I don't know what that is, but I want it and I'm having it, and I'll do what it takes to get there. Now show me. Now show me. Universe, show me. God, show me. Body, show me. Awareness, show me. Me, show me what I know that I haven't been willing to know that I know.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. That's cool. So what would you say that one of your frequent clients says about working with you?
What I hear the most, and it really very much connects to what you've said, Allison, is that, the two women I'm thinking of that came to mind as you asked that, both of them come from sessions and they'd say, I never, it's like, I hadn't thought of it I hadn't seen it that way. I have a sense that there's a possibility now. I often hear that what seemed so significant now and so unchangeable now doesn't actually matter. It's not actually that relevant. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And when you can laugh at your sheet pile, then everything is possible.
It was so good. It was so real how you said, like, and blame your husband for it, right? And like you just had this whole story about it. Like, yeah, we all do that.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So tell us how someone would find you. You said your Calmer Mom Solutions.
Solutions, yeah. Okay. So you can go to Mm-hmm.
Are you on social media as well?
Yes. So my face, I'm not on all the different social medias. I've basically just tried to keep my ADHD focused on Facebook. So I've got a Facebook page is Noble Steps Healing, the Calmer Mom Project. So Noble Steps Healing, what do you call those punctuation marks, : the Calmer Mom Project. And I think the actual Facebook tag thingy is at Noble Steps for You.
Okay. We'll put it in the show notes.
Okay, cool. And then, like I said, so if you went to calmermom.solutions, there's a services page, and that gives more kind of a description of both the online sessions and how you can do single sessions or programs or packages. And then there's also a prenatal tab. And I do have an online email-based thing that's 8 weeks to a calmer mom that's available anytime and is can be a really great way to start changing energy if that's what you'd like to do. But then also with the prenatal stuff, I'm going to be, if anyone needs to go there, I think that by the time the show airs or shortly thereafter, I'm going to have it kind of set up better to get people enrolled in the next set of the prenatal programs. It's a 6-week program. And at this point, it's pretty Zoom based. We're going to do lots, like a weekly Zoom. There's going to be a group Zoom, and then a half day class that includes teaching you how to do some of those points that I was talking about that I do when you come in for a session. So that any time, I mean, that's one of my ways that I change things when I know I'm stuck in my sheet, is to run some of those points on my head and it's amazing how quickly, like I've had times when I was just like so wrapped around the axle, literally I go in the bathroom, lock the door, turn the fan on, run a couple points, how does it get any better than this? And it'll be amazing how then I can come out of there and be like, oh, okay, I actually like you people again.
Yeah. Love it.
So that'll be a piece of that too.
Okay. That's good labor prep.
Yeah.
I could see that for labor prep.
Absolutely. And that's kind of my what I really, so the prenatal program is for you the woman, you and your birth partner or a trusted friend, whoever you feel like in your life would be the best resource for that and open to receiving that kind of energetic conversation. And again, when I look back at my own 2.5 day birth process or whatever with Rosemary, it was like having some of those points to run would have made a difference. I know that to be true. It also would have been an amazing gift to my poor husband who wanted to contribute and had no idea how to contribute, was doing like the best he could. And he was fabulous, but it's like I could have been like, okay, run my implant band. Let's just hold my head and you do that. And knowing that will be a contribution.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I will say, that the bars sessions, like I said, I'm starting to do them more and like figuring out how I can see people in person if you're in the kind of greater Edmonds, Linwood proper, whatever, North Sound, whatever you're willing to come. But women have tended to have shorter labors. So that is one of the things that there's a lot of people in the bars access community who are focusing on working with women prenatally, and it tends to be shorter, easier labors. I think it has a great deal to do with how, if you imagine that space that you talked about being in after a session, if you brought that space to labor.
Oh, your body could just cascade through the parasympathetics and have a baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not fight it,
That's right. And the other thing is it's also about one of the things as part of the program, or that if you work with me in individual sessions, is how to actually be a team with your body and your baby. Our babies have a consciousness. Our babies have information. Our babies have agendas and points of view. One of the things I think would have made my plunge into parenting much easier is if I had had an awareness to really talk with Rosemary from in utero on, and be willing to receive information from her, not from the point of view that I'm the mom and I'm supposed to know, so I'm supposed to take care of you and make it all better, but from the point of view like you would be with someone that you saw as a team member of like, okay, what do you require now? Is it food? Is it a clean diaper? Is it a cuddle? Is it space? Okay, baby who's still in my body, what do you require now? Would you like me to walk? Would you like me to be still? Would you like me to breathe? Hey, could you help us just out here and turn upside down a little and move, we'll look at your belly button instead of trying to, it's like Rosemary, she's like, gotta look where she's going, it's like, that's not going to work here. You look at your belly button, it'll be better. So actually be in communication and teamwork with your body and your baby.
Cool. So anyone who's pregnant should check this out. I'm excited. We will, we'll share your information, and thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you, Allison. It's always delightful to talk with you, and I am so grateful for what you are providing this community and the work that you do, because I have also received from you both, in terms of your amazing body work, your amazing knowledge, and then also just the energy and the kindness that you are is you know, such a gift. So thank you.
Thank you.